Today we dive into the unsettling mystery of what's known as geoengineering and the growing concern about what may be lingering in the very air that we breathe. What are airborne particulates? And why are so many questioning their potential threat to our health, our government, and the world as we know it? Today's guests break down what every American needs to understand in order to protect their families, their communities, and the future of life itself. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Life TV Now, where we unpack all matters of truth, faith, and freedom. Today is set to be explosive, but before we dive in, let me introduce who's here. Today's guest founded the advocacy group Missouri Clean Skies just 7 short months ago and already has a media following of 120,000 people and climbing, with videos reaching nearly 22 million views. He's also actively working on legislation for the Senate and House in the state of Missouri, as well as working at the federal level to stop geoengineering and pollution from the aviation industry. His efforts aim to build a model that can be implemented across all 50 states, driving nationwide movement for cleaner skies. Please welcome Michael Hogan. And he's a member of the Missouri State Senate. Please welcome Senator Mike Moon. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here today. Taking time out of your busy schedule to join us once again. Michael, if you missed last week's program on geoengineering, cloud seeding, what it is, what it isn't, you need to go back to the Life TV Now archives, wherever it is that you watch this program, whether it's Rumble or the Skywatch television mobile app that you can download free and watch immediately, week to week, what we're doing right here at Life TV Now. Michael, for those that missed, though, just a brief recap of geoengineering for those just joining the conversation.
Yeah.
Because to me, as I stated last week, what they are spraying in the skies is the greatest existential threat that our generation faces.
Yes.
Because I can not participate in the food that you're poisoning.
Yes.
And I can not participate in the medications that you're poisoning me with.
Yes.
Right? But what I can't do anything about unless I fight what's happening in the skies first
Yes.
is what is coming down on top of our soil.
Yes.
Even if I go off grid and I decide, you know what, I'm leaving Babylon completely and I'm going to grow my own food. Okay. But what is raining down on it every single day?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Then you go online to look up words like contrails versus chemtrails and cloud seeding versus engineering. And I believe that there is a purposed design behind a lot of what is there to read, like breadcrumbs leading you away from the actual truth. But what I believe it is a blend of heavy metals, aluminum particularly. This is landing in our bodies at the cellular level. God has given us life. He's given us callings and commissions. People are sick mysteriously. They're taking supplements. They're taking medications. They can't figure out what's going on. I think a trainload of this, Michael, is what is coming down from the skies. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I wanted to say there's a quote from Henry David Thoreau from 1861, and it says, "Thank God men cannot fly and lay waste to the sky as well as the earth." Is that prophetic? And so it's such a helpless thing. And so we absolutely have to have legislation. We have to have politicians and legislators who can come in and support this. And it's a tough deal because not everybody is on board. So, but we need state level help. We also need federal help to make this happen, and global help actually.
Right.
And so let's talk about really quick what is geoengineering, because it's a very complicated subject. But geoengineering is basically the deliberate manipulation of the Earth system to counteract the effects of climate change. So this whole thing is built around the climate change cabal, right?
Yeah. We're going to die if we don't block our existence from the harmful rays of the sun. So we're going to create this aluminum shield or this metal shield that blocks the harmful rays, right?
Exactly. Basically reflecting sunlight back into outer space. I mean, how many like sunlight? I love sunlight, you know? And so it's really important for our health, right? Vitamin D, things like that. And a lot of people are getting sick, and it seems so helpless. And so what we know about is even Lee Zeldin, that came out and said solar radiation modification, geoengineering is real. Stratospheric aerosol injection, and it's being funded by the government, and not just the U.S. government, but all over the world because of this climate change globalist agenda. So we talk about geoengineering, where it's deliberately manipulating the stratosphere, which is way up high, with particulates of metals and things, and sulfur dioxide and things like that. We also talk about weather modification, because they are changing our weather, and we're having baseball size hail on a regular basis, and they're telling us that's normal, but they're actually contributing to that. These things that are happening by man, they're actually creating these scenarios. The one thing that I want to talk about real quick is the chemtrail thing, because that's what's getting us all, that's the visual that we all have. As now, are the visual chemtrails the same as geoengineering? We didn't quite get to that on the last week segment, but geoengineering technically is the deliberate, right? It's all about intention, about the deliberate changing. And so what I wanted to do is say, we talked about how chemtrails are actually coming from exhaust, from fuels that are laced with heavy metals like aluminum, strontium, barium, pretty much every metal known to mankind. When they went to this kerosene-based fuel back in 1996 across all NATO countries, that's when the metals really increased, and they are using that. We understand, based on my experience and my research, even though it might sound, okay, this is just a byproduct of fuels turning into exhaust that goes through certain saturated regions and turns into big cirrus clouds. But they absolutely are using that to their advantage to block out our sun. And we know that because the FAA, Dr. Rangisai Halathori, who's a scientist at the FAA, admitted that he's part of the Aviation Climate Change Research Program at the FAA. He admitted in writing that they are intentionally controlling how many clouds that the planes are making over our skies. He says we want to make more by day and less by night.
If you're watching this and you're thinking, man, these guys are talking really fast, it's because we are trying to cover what is a massive intertangled spider web of information, government agencies. Last week, Michael, you said there are 14 government agencies that we know about. We didn't even have time to unpack all of them. Go back to the archives, watch last week, because we're not going to relitigate all of that. But there is what I would call a cabal that has this giant vested interest. They're being, paid millions and millions of dollars to protect us from the harmful rays of the sun, to slow climate change, et cetera. People watching this show may be wondering, though, what can I do as a layperson? What can I do? So, Michael, you were not always involved in things like politics or fighting something like geoengineering. You're out on your back porch, you're looking up at the sky. Again, watch last week's program. But now you're a citizen engaged.
Yes.
How did you meet Senator Mike Moon, and what, gentlemen, can we do as citizens, not just here in Missouri, but all across the states, to battle this?
Well, first of all, we can't do it on our own. We have to have the help of legislators. And so the first thing that I did was I looked to see what legislation do we have. I wanted to do something. I said I wanted to ban it in the state of Missouri. I had no idea what I meant by that, but I had to go and see who's already done it. And actually, I found two gentlemen that actually had legislation already. And so it really encouraged me. So I started with Representative Steve Jordan in the House. He had a bill as well. And then I went to Senator Mike Moon, which is sitting right here next to me. And both of these gentlemen have introduced legislation in the House and the Senate as of this week.
Yeah, at the time of this recording.
At the very time of this recording.
Wow.
So I contacted Senator Moon, had a long conversation with him on the phone, and I think he discovered that I could help him. And so that's where we're at today. And only 7 months, from the time that we formed this organization, for us to be co-authoring and sponsoring bills in the House and Senate, this is a God thing.
You're talking about Missouri Clean Skies.
Yes, Missouri Clean Skies. Yes.
Wow.
And so we're going to pursue this at the state level in Missouri, but not just Missouri. We want to get all 50 states on board, and we're working towards that because we need at least 26 states to get on board so that we could really put the pressure on the federal government to clean up the air.
Senator Moon, again, thank you so much for being here today.
You're welcome.
I know you have a massively busy schedule. You have a lot of people pulling on your time. You have lots of demands, things that you're dealing with. What is your involvement with Missouri Clean Skies, and what is it that you are hoping to accomplish with this teamwork to clean up Missouri's skies and, of course, again, set forth a model that other states could replicate?
Right. You mentioned a few minutes ago that we were going so fast through all this stuff. Well, Michael's got a lot of information. He's got to spit it out quickly, but my information is pretty boring. It's kind of wonky politically, so I'll slow it pace down just a little bit. But seriously, when Michael contacted me, he mentioned that there had been a couple of bills that I'd filed in sessions past, previous to that. But there wasn't really much movement on it because to get a legislative General Assembly involved in it, there has to be some push, either from a lobby group, which is typical, or maybe they've been working on a policy for a number of years and it's coming to a head and they need to deal with it, or a citizen-led activist group gets involved, and that's where Michael came in with Missouri Clean Skies. We have had numerous individuals across the 29th Senatorial District and maybe even over Missouri who have contacted me over the years and asked, what's going on? What can we do about it? And that resulted in filing a couple of bills, but really didn't get any movement. But with the success of Missouri Clean Skies, they've got a tremendous effort and a push of citizens, residents of Missouri and across the nation who are wanting to have some answers on this. And I think we already know what the answer might be, but to get something legislatively enacted so that we can actually fight against it. It's going to be a monumental effort for sure. But the first step has been taken. We've got some good legislation filed in Missouri. I think we'll have hearings pretty soon, and then we can get this through the legislative process. And in Missouri, we have 163 representatives, and they represent about 27 or so thousand people in their legislative district. In the Senate, we have 34 senators, and they represent upwards of 200,000 people. And so what I would encourage your listeners to do is to go to senate.mo.gov. Just spell the word Senate, .mo.gov, and you'll see right on that first page a way to find your legislator. Just put in the information that's requested, and it'll tell you who your state, local, and national officials are. And then you can contact us by email or telephone and let us know that you either support or if you oppose this legislation, let us know what you think. And with the hearings, there's a process that takes place. First of all, the legislation has already been introduced. And the next thing that has to happen is the legislation must be referred to a committee. That'll probably take place in the first full week of session in January. And then after that, hopefully, the committee chairman will determine a committee time where we can hear the legislation, and that's where you come in. If you have an interest in letting us know what you think, you can submit a witness testimony either online or even show up at the Capitol. And this is really powerful. If you come to the Capitol at Jefferson City on the day of the hearing, you'll be able to get into the hearing room. And this is really what's more powerful. If we have so many people we can't fit in the hearing room, guess what? The committee panel will see that and they'll recognize this is an issue that we need to take seriously. And so plan to make a trip to Jefferson City. Even if it's not on the hearing day, come up and see what that's all about and learn what the process might be. Now, just a few tidbits after the hearing. About a week after, the committee will get back together and they will take a vote. Should we pass this to the next stage or just let it lie and die? Typically, the bills will pass and they will go on next to be put in the hands of the President Pro Tem in the Senate and the Speaker of the House in the House of Representatives. They will then have the purview of either sending it to the floor for full debate or setting on it. And if they set on it, that means it's going to die. So that's where you come in again. When the bill passes committee, make the calls, send the emails to the representatives on the committee and the leaders of the House and the Senate and let them know that you want this bill to be taken to the floor for full debate. And once it's debated, it can be perfected, which that's a misnomer. It's not made any more perfect. It's often amended, sometimes for the good and sometimes for the bad. But then after the perfection vote, it can be read for the third time in that particular chamber, pass out of the chamber, and then it goes to the other side. The House sends theirs to the Senate, and the Senate sends theirs to the House to go through the process once again. And once again, you can be involved again in that process. So you can have a hands-on approach to seeing this legislation either succeed or maybe wait another year. We want it to succeed. Michael and his group at Missouri Clean Skies have done a tremendous work in getting the legislation that we have and also getting followers to understand what the issue is. And now we've gotten to a place where we can actually make it happen in the state of Missouri.
That's amazing. Thank you.
So not only Missouri, obviously your audience is much bigger than Missouri. So we need this to happen in every state. Now we've seen legislation has already passed in Tennessee and in Florida. There's also pending legislation. I think there's 33 states that actually have legislation that has been introduced. Maybe they've died or whatever, but we absolutely, every state, whatever state you're in, contact your representatives, contact your, it matters. If I'm not the example, who is? I've only been doing this 7 months. I was sitting, I was just an average citizen that said, I'm going to do something about this. And here we are. So I'm an example to everybody across this country.
Michael, the point you made about 33 other states being involved in some form or fashion on this, that's significant because, of course, we have 50 states in the union and a simple majority is 26.
Yes.
And so if we can get to the 26th state who actually passes something legislatively on the state level, that's going to wake up the federal government to say, look, guys, we've got to do something.
Yes.
And I think they're hesitant at this point because of their involvement, of course.
Yeah.
But I believe we're on to something big, and I'm hoping this momentum will continue.
Well, let's lean into that for just a minute. Michael, RFK Jr. has publicly brought the topic of geoengineering to the forefront of the political landscape. How is it currently being addressed in legislature?
Well, as far as RFK Jr., I think he had been on some podcasts before he got the position that he's in today.
Right.
And so he's already been in this realm of discussion. Because it has to do with our health, and so he's a health advocate, obviously. And so he's definitely receiving a lot of pressure by the public to say, do something about this. He was on a Dr. Phil show, and a person out of the audience asked him a question, what are you going to do about geoengineering?
Right,
and he was put on the spot, okay? And he, I don't know if it was answer was very good, but he basically said, well, we think it's in the fuel, and we think DARPA is behind it, which is a Department of Defense type of situation. And so I guess he's saying that, military planes are behind it and it's in their fuel. We talked about a little bit of that earlier in last week about JP8 fuel, how it is. It's completely laced with aluminum, barium, strontium, all the metals that you can possibly find, I think, are in that fuel, as well as high levels of sulfur dioxide, which is really the go-to element that the geoengineering scientists want to use. So yes, he's feeling the pressure. Marjorie Taylor Greene introduced in the House in national level as well. So there's been hearings there in that arena as well. So there's hope there. What I want to see happen is to contact the FAA and the EPA. Now, the EPA, Lee Zeldin, has come out and admitted that this is going on. But we also want to talk about the fuels, what's happening with the commercial aviation.
Yeah.
It's the chemtrails that are driving people crazy, like literally when they see it and it covers the sky. That's what drives people crazy. And that's something that has to be addressed from the FAA and the EPA, because if it's laced in the fuels and it's turning into cirrus clouds, which we talked about last week, then that has to be addressed by them, okay? So if we can get the states to really put pressure on them, but we're also, as Missouri Clean Skies, we are putting together a petition to insist that the FAA and the EPA do something about the fuels, okay? Now, that's a very long-term situation. Now, the FAA recently came out with a contrails research roadmap with NASA and NOAA, where they actually admitted that this is happening, okay? And it is the fuels, and it's causing, and they're actually admitting that these cirrus clouds are a problem, that it's actually creating a net warming effect. And so that's good news. Now, if you look into that contrails research roadmap, you'll see that the problem that they have found, they're going to give themselves until 2050 to fix it. Well, I'm sorry, I'm not willing to wait till 2050, okay?
25 more years.
Yeah, we have to get this done much sooner. We're not going to they talk a lot about their stakeholders and how we got to please them, and it's in the report. It's incredible. So, but there's good news that they're talking about it. But what we know that using the Schmidt-Appelman criteria, which we talked about in the last week, They know how to change the direction of these planes to avoid these saturated regions, to avoid creating clouds. Okay, they can do this because they're doing it now to create the clouds. So we're going to insist that they route planes around these areas where they won't create clouds. This can happen, literally could happen tomorrow if the right people put this into place. Now, is that going to change the pollution? No, it's not. We do have to address that too, but we want to stop the chemtrails. Right. We don't want to block our sun, okay? Right. We don't like the effects of that, but we also have to address the fuels as well. So this is a big deal, but we know exactly who we need to go talk to, and we know who can actually make the difference.
What I love is that it's a conversation. When you talk about 33 states now having conversations about pushing things through at the state level.
Yes.
I go back to 20 years ago in my head, hearing about who would have been labeled conspiracy theorists at the time talking about some of this. There were, zero number of states even taking it seriously?
Yes.
So you can see the trajectory of people saying, okay, we can't just blame the tinfoil hat society anymore. This is real. Yes. This is happening. And now you've got a lot of independent testers out there testing their own sweat. Doctors on YouTube saying, we did analysis on my sweat, and it showed heavy amounts of aluminum in my body.
Yeah.
Well, not every layperson has the accessibility to a test like that. Yeah. So you're listening to people. Now, this is breaking out from everywhere, in every bit of evidence and database. Your group did testing on your soil. What did you discover?
Well, we've done soil tests, but we also did recently a rainwater sample out of my backyard. Okay?
Right.
And I really thought, okay, maybe I'm just dreaming, and it's going to come back zero. And we only tested for aluminum and barium. Okay, you know it's expensive, very expensive. So I took a rainwater sample. I saw a day that was really, nasty with the chemtrails, and it began to rain that day, and a lot of times that happens. So I took a little bitty sample out of a clean bowl. I made sure that thing was as non-contaminated and clean as possible. Sent it off to the lab, and it came back with aluminum. And it's a small amount. I guess you consider a small amount. It's 21 parts per billion, but I thought it should be zero, right? I want my rainwater to have a zero amount of aluminum because we're trying to grow gardens that are organic. How do you grow an organic garden for your own health if your rainwater and your soil is filled with these heavy metals?
And what you grow, you eat.
Yes.
And you are what you eat.
Yes.
And we're not going to get into this today. Yeah. I would, if you're watching this show, let me just kind of drop off just a couple of bullet points that you can research until we do some shows on this in more depth, because we are going to cover what can also be done apart from, pushing your state to have conversations around, legislation. But I want you to take a look at cilantro. I want you to take a look at chlorella.
Yes.
And I want you to take a look at sweating at least 3 times a week for about 20 minutes. Because sweating and taking chelators, binders, and nutrition to get this stuff out of your body until the skies are clean is probably your best option. So again, I want you to look up cilantro, chlorella, and if you want, infrared sauna, but a way to sweat at least 3 times a week for about 20 minutes. You can do a lot right now before we've done something legally or nationally or federally to help your body withstand what's happening from the skies. Michael, Senator Moon, one of the things that I talk to my constituents in natural healing about all the time, and I say I'm always amazed at how many people that teach on Bible prophecy miss what's happening in our skies and in our soil and in our bodies. They'll talk about every aspect of what's happening overseas and with Israel and the rise of digital currencies and the coming mark of the beast system, the rise of an antichrist network. And we're seeing this right now rising all around the world. And I'll say, but how in the world, if we're discerning all of the signs of the times, do we miss this giant elephant in the room called geoengineering?
Yeah.
Because what they're doing is changing us at the genetic level.
Yes.
Our bodies are not methylating properly.
Yeah.
We are so heavy metal toxic that it's affecting our hormones. It's affecting the next generation of children that are being born now with all kinds of issues and tendencies towards autoimmunity and cancer.
Yeah.
And I say, how in the world, when you look at what they're doing, they're changing our food supplies from what God gave us with clean seeds to genetically modified seeds and all this. While you are seeing a giant renaissance, though, of people pushing back.
Yeah.
And they want clean food. They want clean soil. They want away from Babylonian medicine. They want off of pharmakia. They want to embrace clean living. Like there's an instinctive, you're seeing this almost in the mass population in Western civilization, but it really mystifies me how the church spends zero time from the pulpit talking about this very important area of what I see as another layer of the Antichrist system to make us sick, to control us, to poison God's genome for our body through the manipulation of everything that's affecting our cells. Is this making sense? We're literally rewriting what it is to even be human, but I'm not seeing a lot of Bible prophecy cover this, which is one of the reasons that this show exists. What say you?
Well, I mean, the agenda that they have, they as in the globalist agenda, okay? It is an antichrist spirit, no question about it. When they openly say they wanted to reduce the population, they mean it. Even when the scientists talk about geoengineering, they talk about how many tens of thousands of people, of lives it will cost, just from all of these pollutants that are coming down on their bodies. And so they're very much aware of that. And these Antichrist, godless people who believe, I think in their minds, they believe in climate change because they've convinced themselves, because it's their way, right? They want to have their finger on the pulse or on the thermostat of the world. And so they think because they don't believe in God that they have to be the ones to control all of this. And so it really and truly is a nefarious thing that we're fighting. And the church better wake up because, we don't just sit around and wait for things to happen. We need to get busy. I don't think God gives us a brain to just sit on the pews and do nothing and say, well, God's in control. All throughout the Bible, he talks about how he challenges people to do something.
That's right.
Even when they went into the promised land, they had to fight, and he didn't do it for them. He said, you have to do this. This is the same fight. This fight is for our future. Absolutely.
Amen, Michael. We could go on for another 3 hours with all the stuff that we didn't even get to today. We'll have to do this again in the future. But before we run absolutely out of time, where can people learn more about Missouri Clean Skies? How can they support what you gentlemen are doing? And how can they make a difference in their own state?
So our website, mocleanskies.org, is very powerful. It has a resources page, and all the things that I've mentioned and more, obviously, are on that site. And you could spend forever on that. And really the biggest thing about it is that you're going to get truth. Because, weed through all of the false narratives and things like that, which really will lead you down the wrong trail. I was on the wrong path as well. Most people are when it comes to chemtrails. And so, that's a great resource. And we're not just doing this in Missouri. Keep this in mind. We have to have all states, all 50 states, and federal assistance to make this happen.
Let's overwhelm the corrupted system with light. Amen? Unfortunately, we're all out of time for everybody here in studio. Michael, Senator Moon, thank you so much for joining me on this very important topic. I'm Joe Artis Horn. Keep your eyes on the prize, which is Jesus Christ. We'll be back.